Hello my friends, I'm in Luján de Cuyo, the most recognized wine city of Argentina, here in Mendoza. The Mendoza region is the heart of Argentina's wine industry, renowned worldwide for its exceptional wines, particularly Malbec. Situated at the foothills of the Andes, Mendoza's viticulture dates back to the 16th century, when Spanish colonizers introduced grape wines to the area. Over the centuries, the region has evolved into a premier wine-producing area, thanks to its climate and innovative winemaking techniques. Mendoza has a variety of landscapes that translate into wines with different spirits. Luján de Cuyo, often referred as the land of Malbec, is celebrated for its high-altitude vineyards and rich, full-bodied red wines. Maipú, one of the oldest wine regions, is known for its traditional wineries and diverse grape varieties, producing both robust reds and elegant whites. The Uco Valley, which is cool climate and varied altitudes, is acclaimed for producing high-quality wines with complex flavors and excellent aging potential. San Rafael, in the southern part of Mendoza, offers a mix of old and new vineyards, producing a wide range of wines from Malbec to Chardonnay. Together, these areas contribute to Mendoza's reputation as a world-class wine region, attracting wine enthusiasts from around the globe to explore its rich history, stunning landscapes, and exceptional wines. Let's dive together into this incredible region. The Mendoza wine region, located in the western Argentina, at the foothills of the Andes, is the country's primary wine-producing area, known for its ideal climate and diverse terroir. Starting with the eastern and northern Mendoza regions, these areas are situated at relatively low altitudes of 500 to 700 meters above sea level. They're known for their warm climate and fertile soils, which contributes to high yields and a wide variety of grape types, including Malbec, Bonarda, and Syrah. Moving to the central Mendoza region, known locally as the Primera Zona, or First Zone, it sits at altitudes between 600 and 1100 meters. It includes the renowned wine-producing areas of Maipú and Luján de Cuyo. The Uco Valley, at the highest altitudes in the region, stretches across the departments of Tupungato, Tunuyán, and San Carlos. Located at the foothills of the Andes, the Uco Valley's vineyards range from 9 to 1,500 meters above sea level. Finally, the southern Mendoza region, farther south and cooler than the rest of the province, includes the area of San Rafael. Together, these diverse subregions make Mendoza a rich and varied wine region, celebrated for its high-quality wines and unique growing conditions. The history of wine elaboration in the Mendoza region of Argentina dates back to the 16th century, when Spanish colonizers introduced grapevines to the area. The region's viticulture expanded significantly in the 19th century with the influx of European immigrants, particularly Italians and Spaniards, who brought advanced winemaking techniques and a passion for high-quality wine production. In the early 20th century, Mendoza emerged as the heart of Argentina's wine industry thanks to its good climate, diverse terroir, and innovative irrigation systems sourced from the Andes meltwater. The introduction of Malbec from France in the mid-19th century proved particularly successful, eventually becoming Mendoza's flagship grape variety. By the late 20th century, Mendoza began to gain international recognition for its high-quality wines. Investments in modern winemaking technology, combined with a focus on exporting, helped to elevate the region's reputation globally. Today, Mendoza is renowned for its exceptional wines, especially Malbec, and continues to be a leading force in the global wine industry, celebrated for its rich history and innovative practices. I'm here in Maipú, and I'm with Gabriel Baigorria, who is the owner of Bodegas Mi Terruño. And well, thank you very much for having us, Javier. How are you?
Very good. A pleasure to receive you in Mendoza. We are, as you said, in Maipú, which is one of the most important areas for viticulture in Mendoza, Argentina.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to ask you about the history of winemaking here in Mendoza, especially in the part of central Mendoza, which is where we are. I don't want you to explain how wine was made 4 centuries ago with the Spanish missionaries. I know you have a lot of history in the past. Rather, focus on what has made Mendoza become a highly recognized place for wine production internationally.
Perfect. Well, I think the big change occurred in the 80s. For years, Argentina and Mendoza produced a lot of medium quality wine for domestic consumption. After that change in the 80s, where we started selling wines of higher quality to the external market, linked also to a decrease in consumption in Argentina, it pushed wineries to look for markets outside the country. That change made it so that smaller quantities were made at higher quality. So we started traveling to find different markets and different wineries. Some of them the pioneers, others joining in that new cycle during the 90s. Let Argentina position itself around the world with quality wines. With the eruption of Malbec, it was like the star wine that positioned us throughout the world. That made Mendoza, as you well said, a source of quality wines that was becoming more and more famous. Importers, tourists, and others during the 90s and early 2000s began to come in much greater volume. Now where we are today, we have gastronomy, hotels, high-level viticulture, not only in the quality of the wine, which is very good, but in all the experiences, which makes Mendoza a good travel destination.
I am in Maipú, a very well-known wine area within the central Mendoza region, and I am here to introduce the section where we will explore the climate, geology and soils of the whole Mendoza region. The Mendoza region of Argentina boasts a predominantly semi-arid climate, ideal for vine growing and winemaking. The climate is characterized by hot, sunny days and cool nights, providing optimal conditions for the grape maturation and flavor development. In the higher altitude areas such as the Uco Valley and central Mendoza, including Luján de Cuyo and Maipú, the vineyards benefit from cooler temperatures and a greater diurnal temperature variation. These conditions enhance acidity and complexity in the wines, particularly favoring varieties like Malbec, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Chardonnay. The cooler climate and higher altitudes, ranging from 9 to 1,500 meters, contribute to the production of well-balanced and age-worthy wines. In contrast, the lower altitude regions of northern and eastern Mendoza experience warmer temperatures. These areas produce higher yields and a wide variety of grapes, resulting in robust and fruit-forward wines. The southern Mendoza region, including San Rafael, has a cooler climate overall, but still benefits from significant sunlight. This region produces a diverse range of wines, from full-body reds to crisp whites, thanks to its varied microclimates and slightly cooler conditions compared to the northern and eastern areas. Overall, Mendoza's diverse climate, influenced by altitude and geographical location, allows for the production of a wide range of high-quality wines with distinct characteristics. Hi, I'm in Luján de Cuyo and I'm with Paula Bazán, who is the tourist guide for Bodegas Roberto Bonfanti. Hi Paula, thanks for having us. How are you?
Thank you so much. First, welcome from the entire team here at our winery. You are very, very welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you about the climate in this region, not of Mendoza in general, but of Luján de Cuyo. Can you describe it to me a little?
Yes, of course. Right here we have a small hill that helps maintain a special climate. In the southern region of the Mendoza River, which runs currents of cold temperatures, helps us maintain the hill we have in the southern region of the Mendoza River. The climate we have here is going to have moderate thermal amplitude. It won't have great thermal amplitude, as we talk about with other regions of Mendoza. This will help these vineyards we have in this region. It's a dry climate. Very dry, very little rain. Low temperatures starting from about 2 weeks ago, at the end of May. Low temperatures and even frosts already begun. This cold weather is going to disappear at the end of September.
And then the summer is pretty warm.
It's warm, yes.
Luján de Cuyo is renowned because you have a special microclimate, hills, and the height that you have.
We are at about 930 meters above sea level.
Oh, well, that's a substantial height. In other words, the diurnal amplitude is surely not like in the Uco Valley, but you have enough height.
Yes, enough to have low temperatures.
So that the maturation period is prolonged, the acidity is maintained, all that. I'm in the Uco Valley, And I'm with Pablo Gomez, who is an agronom, engineer and manager of vineyards for Mosquita Muerta. That is the winery that we're visiting today. Hello Pablo, how are you?
Very good.
Well, we are in the Uco Valley, but I know that you also have vineyards in Luján de Cuyo. I want you to explain to me the climate of the Uco Valley in contrast to the one you have in Luján de Cuyo. I believe that the main characteristic of difference is the altitude.
Exactly. You said it. What makes a Malbec from the Uco Valley different from a Malbec in Luján is the altitude. To give you an idea, here we are 1,690 meters above sea level. This means that the behavior of Malbec is completely unique. For Malbec, the high altitude makes the skin of the berries thicker, have more color, more tannins, and more aromas. So it makes the wines we get from these areas of stony soils and high altitude have a very high aging potential and with a complexity completely different from what is obtained in Luján.
The grape grows a thicker skin to protect itself from irradiation. It also protects itself from the winds. You have very strong winds, which we have experienced while on our way here. Indeed, the police stopped us because we couldn't cross through the strong winds.
It is one of the challenges we have to face to do this extreme agriculture and viticulture. In reality, these are challenges that many companies can't face. We do. Why? Because the quality we get from these places is super unique. This is our high-end project, and we have an abysmal quality differential.
Well, since we're suffering the sonda wind, I want you to explain it to me briefly, what it is exactly. It's interesting. It's a wine originates in the Pacific Ocean, at the other side of the Andes.
It is a wind that is part of the essence of San Juan and Mendoza. It's a wind that is born in the Pacific Ocean, like you said. It's born as a wet and cold wind, but as it climbs the Andes Mountains, it loses that moisture in the form of precipitation and fog. And when it crosses the mountain range, it begins to lower in altitude, and it begins to heat up. Then this wind gets to us as a hot and dry wind, which at certain moments of the plant cycle can do a lot of damage.
We are in Maipú, about 20 minutes away, 20 kilometers from the city of Mendoza. It is an area that, as you said, is further away from the mountain range. Therefore, we are at a lower altitude. That lower altitude in itself generates a bit higher of an average temperature and causes some strains like Cabernet and Malbec to have much more ripe fruit. That's very good for certain ranges of wine. It also helps to produce more quantity of grapes from this area of Maipú. It produces more grapes than in other areas of Mendoza.
Of course, that climate is still not humid enough so that you can go without irrigation. Here you do it in a very typical way, that is by flooding. Here we see the canal.
Here we are next to a small canal that you can see here. As you said, irrigation is by flooding, which means there are days of the week that we have the right to receive the water. Only during those days, you can open the gate so that water enters your property. Because of the unevenness of the ground, the water comes running towards where we are standing. So towards that end of the vineyard, there is a slightly higher altitude, and because of the change in altitude, the water comes running down to here.
So you have these between each row of vines, right?
Yes, we have one on each row of vines. We have a furrow like this in every sector of this vineyard. Particularly in Maipú, we irrigate in this way, here in this vineyard, and in other vineyards that we have. We also have drip irrigation, which is what is most common in Mendoza as well, drip irrigation and flooding. People tend to use drip irrigation more. to make more efficient use of water.
The Mendoza region's geology and soils are diverse, significantly influencing vine growing and winemaking. Generally, the soils are alluvial, sandy and rocky, as a result of the many rivers descending from the Andes, providing excellent drainage, which is crucial for high-quality viticulture. Closer to the Andes, such as in the Uco Valley and central Mendoza, including Luján de Cuyo and Maipú, the soils are more gravelly and stony. These high-altitude areas benefit from poor, well-drained soils, which force the vines to root deeply, promoting stress that enhances grape concentration and complexity. The presence of limestone in the Uco Valley also contributes to the minerality and structure of the vines. Farther from the Andes, in the lower altitude regions of northern and eastern Mendoza, the soils are generally more fertile and loamy. These conditions lead to higher yields and vigorous vine growth, producing fruitier and more approachable wines. In southern Mendoza, including San Rafael, the soils are a mix of alluvial sediments with some clay and silt content, providing good water retention and a balanced nutrient profile. This diversity supports a wide range of grape varieties and wine styles.
Well, Pablo, we have here a small vertical section of your land, under one of the vineyards that you have recently planted with Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir.
Here you can see very well what is most characteristic of the soils here in the Uco Valley. Tell me about it.
Well, this is a floor highly sought after in Argentine viticulture. It's calcareous soil. It makes the behavior of the vineyard very different than others. This soil can be found in the Uco Valley, in some areas like Gualtalari, San Pablo, Altamira, and Los Arboles, which is where we are now. Here we can see how the soil behaves and how it is formed. We have a first layer, about 30 to 35 centimeters of fertile soil. But after that we find stone with calcium carbonate incrustations. This is the typical chalky soil. It's different from other areas that have limestone. This is calcareous sedimentary. In other words, it has been deposited.
This makes cracks. The roots are freed between these stones.
Of course, you can see how the root penetrates, and roots appear as far as down here. Look at the roots. You can see them everywhere.
This is a very important soil. You say that winemakers look for this soil for a reason. What does it do to the grape?
Well, this affects the balance of the plant. Each plant has a different balance. This soil regulates the production of the plant and makes it more mineral. Look at my hand. This chalk that I have is later experienced in forms of texture in the wine on the palate. It also gives a very valuable natural acidity in wines. That acidity helps us reveal part of the aromatic components we look for in these wines. It gives freshness and elegance to the wine. That is why these floors are so sought after and so appreciated. There aren't that many, they are very few.
They are sandy loam soils. They are clayey from sediments off the same river. We are barely a kilometer away from the Mendoza River. So, these soils are more clayey.
I see rocks as well, which I guess is the alluvial part that is here also.
Yes, these soils are very deep. Also, these vineyards have very deep roots.
What about the soil in Maipú? Being more in the valley, I suppose it would be a little more fertile and a little deeper too.
What differentiates it from other areas further towards the mountain range is the fact that there is much less stone. It is less rocky. We have a little more sand and clay. That is what distinguishes the soil of Maipú more than anything. A soil that's clayey with some stone. It's different from the Uco Valley, where being more near the mountain range, there is more presence of stone. That impacts the way humidity is absorbed by the earth. while you have a sandier soil more towards the east in Santa Rosa. When it rains there, it absorbs the rain much faster. Here, the humidity is maintained. In fact, it has been watered recently and it's still very, very humid. Plus we are in the cold season. But overall, these types of soils maintain the humidity better.
Being more clay, it retains more water. It is said that it is a cooler soil, which perhaps compensates for the higher temperature.
The higher temperatures of the region, exactly.
I understand that clay gives wines with more concentration, right?
Yes, we have wines here that are very concentrated with fruit, as you well say. Another important aspect of that is linked to the age of the vineyards. Maipu is one of the traditional areas of origin of viticulture in Mendoza, along with Luyon de Cuyo. So, both in Maipu and Luyon, we have vineyards that are 60, 70, 80 years old. We have a 104-year-old vineyard in Luyon that also produces a fruit that has more concentration, accompanied as well with the characteristics of the soil and the climate. But the age of the vineyard also has a lot to do with it. This vineyard, for example, is 65 years old.
I am at the foot of the Andes, in the Uco Valley, to present the section where we will talk to the locals about the viticultural practices and grapes of Mendoza. Viticultural practices in Mendoza are highly adapted to the region's diverse terroir and climate, with specific techniques varying between different areas. In the higher altitude areas like the Uco Valley and central Mendoza, including Luján de Cuyo and Maipú, vertical shoot positioning and meticulous canopy management are common to maximize sunlight exposure and airflow. These regions often use drip irrigation systems, utilizing meltwater from the Andes to precisely control water application, thereby stressing the vines slightly to enhance grape concentration and complexity. In contrast, the lower altitude areas of northern and eastern Mendoza, which experience warmer temperatures and have more fertile soils, frequently employ flood irrigation methods using snowmelt from the Andes. This traditional technique involves flooding the vineyards to water the vines, which can lead to more vigorous growth. Canopy management and green harvesting are crucial here to manage yield and maintain fruit quality. In the cooler southern Mendoza region, including San Rafael, a mix of traditional and modern practices is used. The diverse microclimates here require flexible viticultural techniques to optimize grape ripeness and flavor profiles. Overall, Mendoza's viticultural practices are tailored to the specific conditions of each subregion, with significant differences in irrigation methods and vineyard management strategies, reflecting the unique needs of the diverse landscapes.
Well, Pablo, we're here in a new project of the many that you have, where you are collecting natural water that goes down that waterfall over there, so that you can then store it to water the vines. Because here irrigation is very important, right? Explain how this works.
Well, this is the heart of our project. Here, our projects are born. Viticulture in Argentina depends on water. If we do not have water, we cannot carry out agriculture. To give you an idea, a vineyard dies in 3 months without irrigation. This is a water spring. The water comes from up there, 10 meters up. We take it from this place, and from here we move it to a larger reservoir, and from there, due to unevenness, without the use of energy, we water our vineyards for our new project.
You use drip irrigation to keep everything under control, right?
Of course, we work with a team of engineers. We work doing all the calculations in order to determine this water flow. We know how much there is, how much surface area it allows us to cultivate, and obviously, we use drip irrigation with the latest technology available.
Well, we are in the Uco Valley. You guys are located at the foot of the Andes. In other words, this area is already climbing the Andes. In fact, we have been going up quite a bit to get here. To get to this project, we have gone along a road that cuts through the mountain. I'm assuming it's as hard to get here as it is to work the vineyards. How do you do it?
Well, this is a challenge. They really are unique projects. They are projects that only very few wineries can do. The challenge is, as I said, finding water, finding a water spring like this. The challenge is making that road that led us up here, which was months of work, of effort, to be able to get water from here. Obviously, we think these projects through, always with a vision of sustainability. Seeing what we can do so that nature is integrated into the vineyard. You see that we try to alter nature or native vegetation the least amount possible. Why? Because our essence is that the vineyard integrates into the landscape, the type of soil, the climate, and obviously, using water in the most efficient way possible.
Well, you've shown us where the water comes from. Here we can see the pipes for drip irrigation. We are in a vineyard that you just planted. Indeed, you can see here the tiny plants.
Exactly. Here you see the vines we just planted. What we do is agriculture with as little intervention as possible. You can see that the native plants still continue to grow. We only dig a hole, put the plant in, and use drip irrigation with the water coming from the water spring.
This system for the Bernarda is ideal because the Bernarda, as we call it in Argentina, is a grape originally from Italy. That obviously, with all the European influence that we had here, was brought to our land. It is the second most planted grape in Argentina, Bernarda, after Malbec. This type of vineyard design allows the grape to hang from here, and the foliage protects it from the sun, the direct sunlight. Bernarda is a grape that suffers a little from strong sun exposure.
So it has thin skin.
Yes, correct. It's a grape that generally does not create high alcohol levels when we make wine with it. The foliage allows it to not get that direct sunlight. Obviously, we remove some foliage so that the clusters have sunlight, but this type of vineyard is very interesting for Bernarda.
Interesting for the grape, less interesting for the people who work here because you have to squat down to get in there.
Well, either way, you take a basket, put it here, and collect the grapes.
This is quite high.
It's quite high. In fact, the tractor passes through here. It is a sufficient height that allows the tractor to do its work. But it has its complexity in the sense that the wires don't allow a machine to enter to do automatic harvesting. It's mainly done manually. Being a mountain desert area, sometimes the weather begins to increase the temperature. Spring will begin, plants start to sprout, and suddenly there is a cold front that reduces your temperature to -3 degrees, and that really affects the plant a lot. There are several options that can be used in that case. You can water the soil, you can use heaters, but hey, everything has a high cost and sometimes it is not achieved in time.
Paula, we are now inside the vineyard. There are some fantastic olive trees here, scattered throughout the vineyard.
Well, we can say that they are centenary old.
Wow!
When the winery was made, which was in 1915, olive trees and vineyards were planted. We keep renovating the vineyard, but the olive trees have been here a while.
The olive tree with the vine is seen in many parts of the world because the climate that suits the vine suits the olive tree, right?
As a second income, as a second source, since immigrants arrived in these regions.
In fact, you produce olive oil.
Exactly. We do produce oils, and we do olive growing as well. And well, we bring it here to do the labeling.
Well, explain to me how do you do the viticulture in these vineyards? I see you have the non-trellises.
We have them on trellises, low ones at that. What we do at the beginning of the cycle is pruning, manual pruning, in which Roberto Bonfanti also participates. We use this unique method, and this is how we will wait for the new growth of the shoots in spring. Then what is done is the harvest, of course. In February and March, the harvest is manual in all our vineyards in which we work here in Lyon, in the Maipo region, in the Uco Valley.
I see that you use flood irrigation, as we have mentioned before, right? Here you can see the grooves.
The grooves. Exactly. What we are going to work on is in conjunction with the government order. In the winter season, right now we only receive water once a month. It is only when the plant needs more water and is in the process of growth. We water once a week. What we have here is what we seek to highlight. It's even the task of the engineer to highlight this care that has been carried out for many years. Even his grandparents worked here. They were vintners, and what they seek is to preserve the quality of the grape. We have some old grapes, and some old vineyards that are going to give us some well-concentrated clusters, very small grapes, and will give a level of properties suitable for making wines that will allow to take them to reserve or grand reserve. That's what we're looking for in this vineyard in the Lyon region.
Are the plants very old?
Yes, approximately 30 to 50 years old.
So you keep replanting them?
We renew them through a method that we call Moreau. What we do is preserve this vineyard that is very old. We leave the stems very long. You can see they are several meters long, and it will turn back into a plant. On this side, it will put down its own roots, and then we will have a new plant with high production.
Of course, very good. And this way you preserve the same characteristics of the vine.
The same characteristics as this old vine that is 40 or so years old.
This winery, Mosquita Muerta, has white and red varieties. Within the reds, obviously, we have the varieties that are predominant or more important in Argentine viticulture, like Malbec, but we also have Cabernet Franc, which we see as the variety to accompany Malbec. It is the grape with second most potential in Argentina. Then in the white varieties, we have Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. Then we also have Pinot Noir.
These are all French grapes.
Yes.
And what are they doing here in Argentina? Why do they do so well? They are all varieties from Bordeaux.
Exactly.
The climate is very different.
Well, that's the great difference. They are varieties that have found a niche and have behaved differently from how they behave in France. Malbec in French means mal la boca, bad mouth. In reality, it's a wine in France that does not generate much concentration. It is a high production wine.
In fact, it's only used in Cahors, and that's basically it.
Exactly. Although here the behavior is totally different. It is a variety that concentrates, that generates very nice tannins, very round, lots of fruit, and wines with very high aging potential. Nothing to do with how it behaves there, which is in humid climates and at sea level.
In particular, we are going to tell you first about Maipo, which is where we are. As we said, here we have Bernarda, and in this vineyard we also have Malbec, Cabernet Sauvignon, and a bit of Torrontés. Those are the 4 strains that are here in Maipo. Basically, Maipo as a region is characterized a lot for this type of grapes that we have mentioned. So we could say that what this winery has in Maipo is projected to the rest of Maipo region. This is what is most common, the most traditional of this region.
And which others?
In other areas we have Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and Sauvignon Blanc. Mi Terruno is a project that has a quite large range of products. Precisely as the name of our winery says, Mi Terruno, or our land, in our different lands, we find what is ideal for each vine. As we said before, this land we're on is good for Malbec, Cabernet, Bernarda, and Torrontés.
Winemaking in Mendoza is a blend of traditional practices and modern innovations, reflecting the region's rich heritage and commitment to quality. One of the main wine styles in Mendoza is the robust and complex Malbec. These wines are known for the deep color, intense fruit flavors of blackberry, plum, and black cherry, and well-structured tannins, often with subtle notes of violet and spice. Malbec wines from Mendoza can range from young and vibrant to rich and age-worthy, often benefiting from oak aging, which adds layers of vanilla, chocolate, and smoky nuances. But Mendoza is much more than Malbec. Its diverse terroir and innovative winemaking practices ensure a wide array of high-quality wines from various grape varieties that cater to various tastes and preferences. Let's have a look at it with the winemakers. Well, now I'm with Sebastián Bonfanti, who is an agronom, engineer, and working for the family winery.
Sebastián, thanks for receiving us. How are you?
Well, welcome. To us it's very important and very nice to be able to show you a small and family-owned business. We have been in business since 2004 with winemaking, starting with small production at the beginning and slowly transforming to what we are now. The most important thing that we have is that the vineyards comes from our great-grandparents. Our great-grandparents are Italian. Jose arrived in 1915 and bought the vineyard that they had just seen. The most important thing in the wines we make is that since it is an old field, it gives us a slightly smaller fruit, so it produces less quantity, and it gives us the possibility, as a technician, of being able to have different plots for the different lines. We divide the wines into 3 large groups. The wines for the year with much more fruit and no oak, the Reserva wines that pass through barrels for 12 months, and the Gran Reserva that pass through barrel for 18 to 24 months. Those are the top wines.
The aging you do in this barrel room?
In this barrel room we have 110 barrels. I always liked French oak better. I think the American oak barrels are a bit strong.
You use all French?
All French. We have first use barrels, up until 5th year used barrels. The market has also shown us what it likes, and it's not so much oak taste. So for the Reserva, for example, it goes through a new barrel and a used barrel. Incidentally, a blend of barrels.
Then the grapes from different plots, I suppose you have them identified. The one you like the most, the one you like the least.
Totally. I have been working with INTA for about 10 years, which is the National Institute of Agricultural Technology. With them, we measure the soils and the quality of the grapes since I like that topic very much. We have different plots designated for Reserva and Gran Reserva, but we always look for less quantity in the Reserva and Gran Reserva. We don't exceed 5,000 kilos per hectare.
I assume that you also use different toasted notes to play a bit with the wines.
Not exactly. In the last couple of years we tried to let the terroir express itself. The truth is that it is a medium roast. As I mentioned before, no more than 20 to 30% of the barrels are new, so it expresses itself. Luyon has that theme. The tannins are much more soft, and it has a lot of red fruit.
Before aging it, for example, the young wine, which does not see oak, how do you treat the fermentation of the wine to express the terroir?
I use selected yeasts of French origin.
It's all hand harvest.
All manual. In the field we have the vineyard and the olive trees, so we don't use machines. This can be a good and a bad thing, because we can be limited. But hey, it can be very fun because that plot is very select. We work manually, small baskets. There is a lot of technology though. There's a destemmer of French origin, and a press of German origin. I also do use French yeast. I've used the same one for almost 20 years, although I also do work with indigenous yeasts as well. That topic is doing very well, but with small productions, of course.
It is true that you have many olive trees interspersed throughout the vineyard. It is very beautiful to see. They say that sometimes the grape acquires the aroma of the plants in the vicinity. Do you have any of that happening?
The closest thing to it that we've done while researching with Inter is pastures, more than the olive trees, the pastures that we incorporate. The mowing of the fields, we've found in recent years that every time you go mow all that grass, it sticks to the skin of the grape. The truth is that we are finding some of that activity, not so much the olive tree, but the flora that we are incorporating, the most native flora. That's why when we speak of agriculture, we like to call it agroecology instead of organic. We use zero chemicals, like our grandfathers did, nothing more than enhancing it a little, and adapting to climate change, which is also quite interesting.
Well, I find everything you tell us very interesting. Later we're gonna try the wines.
Totally, welcome, and time to drink. For us it's all a luxury, and I wish you success on this documentary.
Thank you. Well, Gabriel, we are in your winery, a very peculiar winery because of these mosaics that you will explain soon, and how you have transformed an old traditional winery for volume production into a signature winery.
Exactly. This winery was built in 1969. In those times we worked more in volume, more quantity, and currently we work more on quality. To obtain more quality you need smaller volumes, which allows us to have the traceability of the grapes that come from the vineyard, which then become wine. And those wines placed in different smaller places than where they were previously placed.
What was not useful were the 100,000-liter tanks that they have here.
Exactly. Here we have a very good example of a pool that used to hold 100,000 liters. But we did an engineering job placing concrete partitions inside that big pool, dividing it into two. Just like we were saying before, to have smaller quantities and to let us diversify and track the grapes in each of the pools.
Hey, that tiny mosaic that you see here is very difficult to find nowadays. If you want to make one today, it will cost you a fortune. Where does it come from?
We were lucky that the family in its time who built this winery also had a Venetian mosaic factory, which is what they call that. As you say, nowadays it is used to decorate kitchens and swimming pools. It is very expensive. We were very lucky that the winery is practically completely covered with this. Although, it's not only for aesthetic, but also allows for hygiene on the walls, because it's basically a mosaic.
You can wash it.
Exactly, and it gives it a bit of color.
Very good. Well, tell me about how you make the wines. Let's start with the whites, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc.
Well, for winemaking for whites, it is generally more in stainless steel tanks. These types of concrete and cement pools we use more for red wines. Also for young red wines, which obviously are from recent vintages, where the fruit shows a lot. And well, after the grinding and crushing processes of the grapes, they're stored in these concrete pools. For the white wines, as we said, are put in the stainless steel vats. We also then have the aging wine, which are put into oak barrels.
So all the reds are fermented here?
Yes, we have them here. Except for some reds that I sometimes use the barrels for, but very few. Most of it is here, in the tanks and in barrels. After being here for approximately 5 or 6 months, depending on where the grapes come from and what quality of wine we have, those go to the barrel. They can be in the barrel anywhere from 6 months to 2 years.
Perhaps you explain that in the crianza room.
Yes, let's go.
Well, now we are in your crianza room, where you age some of the wines. Which ones are they?
Well, here we have a range of reds. We have Malbec, Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc. The display of barrels is very interesting, because from what we see here, there's oak from different origins. We have French oak, American oak, And there are even some Slovenian oak, from the eastern part of Europe. Each barrel gives us interesting results. For example, with Malbec we prefer to use American and French oak, depending on which vineyard we're using. With Cabernet Franc, we use French oak only, so that is very interesting.
Do you have different toasts?
Yes, different toasts. The main one is a medium toast. We also play around with a toasted plus and a less toasted option as well. We do this to give different characteristics to the wine. Another interesting thing is that here we have barrels that are containing the wine for a period of 8 to 9 months, or a little more than 2 years, depending on the level of wine. All the wines that are here are wines from the ranges of premium to super premium.
And how long does aging last, more or less?
Anywhere between 9 and 26 months would be the minimum and maximum.
Right now people don't want to give so much presence to oak. Are you guys following this trend?
Exactly. There is a tendency to highlight the fruit. In fact, our winery focuses on the presence of the fruit a lot. Even in wines that have been in the barrel for 2 years. We want the fruit to be felt, tasted and enjoyed in the wine. That is very important to us.
I'm in one of the wineries of Mosquita Muerta here in Mendoza, and I'm with Gustavo Sanchez, who is the winemaker of the winery. And thank you, Gustavo, for having us.
How are you?
Very well. It's a pleasure to have you here in our home.
We are in a winery that has a peculiar history, which is also closely associated to the decision of the owner of the winery to start making wine. He is a supermarket and food merchant.
Exactly.
He decided to make wine because he bought this winery as a distribution center, but they didn't let him use it because it has an architecture that is very typical to this area.
Yes, it has a very typical architecture and it has become the property of the province. And well, what was done was to value fairly all the virtues that this century-old winery has. In that, also taking advantage to elaborate wine, the whole winery was refunctioned. So, each and every one of the pools were worked on. We made it practically new. We are using 100% of everything here.
You have this, you have concrete eggs, and many other things.
It all depends on the variety we use, or type of winemaking practices we do. In the case of white wines, we have presses, we have the possibility to do selections of cluster and grain, and the possibility of fermenting in these concrete tanks, or in stainless steel tanks.
How do you make Chardonnay, for example?
For Chardonnay, it is a very careful preparation, because what we are looking for is to maintain all that freshness of the vineyard. Well, we have been growing vines at 1500 meters altitude and 1600 meters altitude. We need to maintain all that freshness. What is done is a very careful harvest. The grapes enter the winery. We press using pneumatic presses. We collect the juice and put it in either a tank or pool to clarify. After that, we begin with fermentation. The fermentation can be done in an oak barrel or in a stainless steel tank. It all depends on the type of style we want for each Chardonnay.
And what about the reds, like Malbec, Cabernet Sauvignon, or Cabernet Franc? How do you treat them?
Well, for Malbec, which is a very plastic variety, in the sense that it is very easy to work, it responds very well to the way it is worked. What I mean by this is that if I vinify it in a concrete tank, or in a short vinification, we will obtain a super silky product, super fruity, with very little tannins, but very soft. I can also do a much larger extraction. We have the possibility of working on it in concrete eggs, and there we will manage to have a different structure. We can also do a fermentation directly in a barrel, in a ferment roll. There, we are going to have a lot of concentration, a lot of color, but with a very special silkiness.
Well, let's go to the ages section of the winery and you can explain how it works.
Perfect, let's go.
not in the barrel room, which is where we were going to go, but you showed me this room where you also age wine. It's so beautiful and I love it, so we're going to do the rest of the interview here. Tell me about the aging process.
Well, in the case of aging, it depends a lot on the strain. So, we have a strain in which aging is done in barrel. We also have a strain that we cut directly before placing it in the barrel. In the case of products such as Cordero con Piel de Lobo, what we would do is look for a very important fruity intensity. So for that wine, the contact in oak would be at a minimum. That wine would predominantly be in concrete pools.
Like this one?
Yes, exactly, in these.
So these are in use?
Yes, these are all working right now. In the case of Pero Calogero, what we do is maintain 50% of the cut inside these cellars. The rest of the cut we put in barrels of second and third use. We do this so it ages in oak and has more of an oak touch in the wine.
Is there a wine which you focus more on oak with?
In general, you'll find more oak usage on the higher tier lines for Mosquita Muerta. In the Malcriado, we use more oak. In general, we do not want oak to be the main protagonist. We seek to make it the identity of the terroir that stands out. So if we do use an oak barrel, it would be a barrel of second or third use, or we'd work with higher volumes so that the contact with oak is less.
For the wines that go in barrel, how long are they in there for?
It ranges anywhere from 6 to 18 months, but it depends a lot on the intensity each wine has. In other words, there are wines that, even after 18 months, are always predominant with fruit, and there are others that are totally different.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our wine journey. I'm with Melissa del Campo, and we both are in a beautiful vineyard in Luján de Cuyo.
We're thrilled to take you through this renowned region, known for its exceptional Malbec and so much more. We will be visiting several esteemed winemakers who are eager to share their passion and their wine with us.
That is right. Actually, Mendoza is a diverse region with unique subregions, each offering something special. From the higher altitudes of the Uco Valley to the famous vineyards of Luján de Cuyo and Maipú, we'll be exploring a variety of wine styles by the hand of their makers.
That's right, Enrique. Each area has its own distinct climate and soil, contributing to a rich diversity of wines produced here. We will taste everything from robust reds to vibrant whites and link them to the meticulous winemaking process that make Mendoza a world-class wine destination.
That's right. I can't wait to taste my first Mendoza's Malbec in Mendoza. Let's go for it.
Let's go.
We are in Viticulture, still now with Melissa, who is actually accompanying us with this tasting. And we are with Cecilia Jimenez, who is the enologist of the bodega.
Thank you for having us, Cecilia. How are you?
A pleasure. Thank you for visiting us. Very good.
We're going to do a tasting of some of your wines.
We are going to present it in the way that we present it to our guests. This includes a pairing of wines and chocolates with chili peppers that are local to the region. In this precise moment, let's start then with a sparkling wine, which is from the expression line. The grape mainly comes from the Uco Valley. It is composed of Chardonnay, Chenin and Pinot Noir. Well, it is made with Charmat method. that is, the fermentation is done in the tank. Basically, it is chosen by the aromas it has on the nose. Well, the fruits, especially red fruits, are very aromatic. In the mouth it already expresses a vibrant entrance.
The bubbles are very light.
Yeah, that's right, it's lively.
It's creamy. It has an acidity that is typical of the Yuko Valley area. Step number 1 is to eat it with a white chocolate, which comes from a fruit on the most typical fruit tree in the Cuyo region. It is also known as false pepper or pink pepper. Well, basically you pair it because it complements well, due to the liveliness of the sparkling wine bubbles and the crispy sensation that comes with the chocolate.
Well, to finish, I will offer you our Maya Cava, the top of the line, the maximum representation of Malbec from Lujan de Cuyo, which is the land of Malbec in Mendoza.
It is our flagship strain that represents us around the world. This Malbec rests for 24 months in first-use French oak barrels.
Depending on the market and sales of each season, then they also rest on the bottle for a number of months. Maya Cava tells the history of the native inhabitants of Mendoza, in the area of Cuyo, which is where they buried their treasures. The burying site was called Maya Cava.
On the nose, because of the passage through barrel, you will find ripe fruit. You'll find jam, ripe plum, all very expressive, with some nuts if you can perceive them.
Melissa, apart of being a wine lover, she specifically loves Malbec.
For this one on the nose, it is spectacular. The Malbec is very distinctive and the violet aromas are still noticeable. Also the color. It is an expressive, vibrant violet.
And on the palate?
It really is an exemplary wine for us. It makes us very proud, because it can even be drank alone. It is like a dessert in itself, because it offers you the characteristics of the sweetness of elegance and of persistence on the palate.
Which chocolate would you pair it with?
Well, the milk chocolate bonbon with masala and oji and tucha. Masala is, as you know, a mix of spices. And basically, we have chosen this pairing because for us it is like the best experience, with the complexity of flavors and textures that the wine, chocolate, and spices offer.
I think that the species and dry herbs in the chocolate can also be found in the wine.
They complement each other very well.
And the Malbec is very well complemented with chocolate. All of those herbs begin to bounce around on your palate.
It highlights it more.
Exactly.
The wine feels different now.
Correct.
Hey Cecilia, thank you very much. This experience with chocolates has been fantastic. The wines are spectacular. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you guys for visiting. We will always be here for you. Cheers.
We're here to try a few wines, especially those ones that we have here. We're going to start with Chardonnay.
We're starting with a Chardonnay, Cordero Compil de Lobo. This is the most fresh wine of its line. When we look at the characteristics for Chardonnay, what we like to look for is mainly trying to represent the freshness of the Andes Mountains. We're going to have a pretty pale color, a yellow or green color with greenish notes. That denotes how young it is and the freshness it has. On the nose,
It's mineral.
yes, if we go on the nose, those notes begin to appear. It has yellow fruit, some peach appears, and some floral notes. This makes the product very attractive on the nose.
It's very fresh.
In the mouth, it is a product that is very friendly. It is a product that is very easy to drink. The truth is that the note of freshness is retained in your mouth.
And that makes you want more.
Yes, exactly.
Very fresh.
Well, the next one we have is Malbec. You can't miss out on the Malbec. This one is also from the same line Cordero.
Inside of the Cordero line, we also have Cordero Malbec. It is a product that we think represents the value of Mendoza. We go look for a selection of vineyards in different places for this wine, like in the Uco Valley or in the Luyon de Cuyo region. This one is a little more to the east, towards the Maipú area, but let's try it. Notice how on the nose you get aromas of violet, more floral aromas. Then some cherry and fresh notes appear. When you put it in your mouth, it is the typical Malbec. It's very juicy, it's very round. You feel that sensation of very soft tannins. There are some people that consider this to be somewhat sweet, without having any sugar. Well, it's a great representation of a typical Malbec.
This is my favorite. It makes me think of Argentina and eating lamb.
Now for the third, the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yes. Now let's try the Cabernet Sauvignon. In this case, we have the line Perro Calogero, or Stray Dog Cabernet Sauvignon. Well, it's also going to be a Cabernet selection. In this case, we have 50% that comes from the Uco Valley area, and the other 50% from the Luyon, Maipú regions. It's more subtle. We have the possibility of maturing it a little more, so we don't have those greenish notes. That is, notes appear more towards the strawberry, towards jam, towards fresh fruit. You also get notes of peppers, more on the ripe side, not so much green pepper, which makes it very attractive.
It's robust on the mouth and powerful.
Yes, that it is. It's very easy to drink. It has that easiness to drink, which a Cabernet Sauvignon with a good maturity usually has.
Well, Gustavo, thank you very much for the tasting. We're gonna try some more wine later, but off camera. We're very delighted to have met your new projects in the Uco Valley. And thank you for welcoming us.
I thank you all for coming here.
Thank you.
Well, we're lucky that inside one of your wineries you have a restaurant. Also a high-end restaurant with food very representative to the region. In this case, we have a Mendoza empanada.
Exactly. It's an empanada made of ribeye. It's a double-baked puff pastry. The meat is cooked twice, and then the dough is finished in the oven so that it is crispy.
That sounds really good, but hey, we have been in Argentina for several days, and now we understand that the empanada is like the national food. But this one is a Mendoza empanada. What's special about it?
Exactly. That's what I was about to explain. Each province here gives its own imprint to its empanadas. The puff pastry is typical of Mendoza, the olive. We are olive producers. We have an olive tree farm. The olive in Mendoza is a very important crop. So the Mendoza empanada always has olives and a lot of onion, which makes it very juicy.
Well, it looks very good. I'm going to try it with a bit of sauce. Well, you can take it because it falls apart.
This empanada must always be accompanied with a good Mosquita Muerta Malbec,
Mosquita Muerta Malbec.
the best pairing for a Mendoza empanada.
You specialize in mature meat in this restaurant. Can you explain that?
Well, Argentina is a country that stands out worldwide for the quality of its meats, because of the type of breeding and raising we give to the cows. We've done unique things to make our restaurants different. In this case, our meats are all matured meats. It is a process in special refrigerators where, through low temperatures and a permanent draft, what it does is make the meat lose part of its water content, and it generates a lactic fermentation inside. So that breaks up all the hard part of the meat. So the meat tends to be much softer, more tender, and with Parmesan cheese flavors.
We have just been served the mature meat. I like it with pepper. Can you pour it with this very small pepper shaker? Yeah, thank you. Well, let's try it because I'm very excited. We have two types of meat, right?
Yes, two types. Ribeye matured for 35 days. We have T-bone, matured 35 days, but with a black garlic emulsion. In the end, it's just two different cuts with the same maturation, but one with that emulsion which gives it a different characteristic.
Very good, fantastic. For painting, we have another wine that they brought to us, which is your Vilma, Syrah.
This is a great Syrah that comes from the province of San Juan, a wine that goes beyond Syrah standards. Why? Because it's a valley with a particularity that confers concentration and structure to the wine, a wine that perfectly accompanies matured meats, with a lot of body and personality to accompany meats like this.
It has good tannin to counteract the protein that we're eating right now.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
We're here on a fantastic terrace that you have here, with the vineyard behind us. There is no better way than this to try these wines. Melissa, who loves Malbec, is here with us. You must be happy.
Super happy.
Perfect. Let's look at the different wines. Let's start off with this year's wine. We have here a Malbec. Sebastian looks to use old vines for this wine. Although it plays a bit with some studies he's done with much care. What he looks for here is to add a little more water, so that the wine becomes a bit more light. Aromatically, you'll find some sweet fruit obviously. In my opinion, it is a cherry. It's a fresh cherry.
Yes, that's right, it's fruity.
The cherry is quite marked here.
We're going to try it. It has some of the properties that we have here: tannins, colors, and aromas. These are going to be a bit light because of the play with water on this. But in the end, this wine of the year seeks to preserve the properties of these ancient vineyards. Familia Bonfanti Malbec. Here we have 12 months in oak.
Which is your Reserva.
It's our Reserva from León de Cuyo as well.
This has a more powerful color, although it is still not very intense, but it does have much more color.
And you can notice the toast.
It has subtle oak notes.
It's also a bit sweet. It still has those red fruits that we get from these vineyards.
This one has more presence in the mouth, more body, and has a lot of fruit.
The acidity is felt in the back of our mouth. The alcohol level may also vary. It is a little higher here. There is also the presence of more intense tannins. Here we have our Gran Reserva. Here we have El Denominado Alpha, which has seen 24 months in barrel, and it's a blend.
Blend with Cabernet Franc.
A blend with Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon. We have 80% Malbec from Leon de Cuyo, of course. It is like our star for these vineyards. It has 10% Cabernet Sauvignon from the Uco Valley, and 10% Cabernet Franc also from the Uco Valley. This is a wine that is complex.
It has green notes. It has herbal notes.
It has notes of pepper. It's vegetal.
Distinctive of Cabernet.
Yes, exactly.
In the background, you might get some chocolate. It has properties both aromatic and tannins that are very subtle, almost velvety in it.
Excellent.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Paula, thank you very much for receiving us and showing us your wines. We heard that you have a fantastic restaurant, by the way.
Of course, with this beautiful view.
If anyone watching is looking for some good food and a good view, this is a place to go.
We're delighted to receive you and all tourists who want to visit us.
Very well, cheers.
Cheers.
What an incredible journey it has been through the Mendoza wine region. From the historic vineyards of Luján de Cuyo to the traditional estates of Maipú and the breathtaking high-altitude sites in the Uco Valley, we've experienced the very best this region has to offer.
Absolutely, Enrique. Each area we visit showcases the unique characteristic and exceptional quality of Mendoza wines. The passion and the dedication of the winemakers we met truly inspiring, and their wines reflect the diverse terroirs of this beautiful region.
Absolutely. We tasted some of the finest Malbecs in central Mendoza, known for their rich flavors and robust structure. Maipú impressed us with its blend of tradition and innovation, producing a variety of outstanding wines.
And the Uco Valley, with its stunning landscapes and high-altitude vineyards, offer wines with remarkable complexity and elegance. The dedication to quality and the innovative approaches in winemaking here are truly world-class.
That is right. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through Mendoza as much as we have. It is a region that not only produces exceptional wines, but also tells a story of tradition, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of excellence.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Mendoza wine's country. We raise our glasses to the winemakers, the vineyards, and the incredible wines that make this region so special. Until next time, cheers.
Cheers, and don't forget that some of these wines can be found at Winedos.com.